You ever wake up in the middle of the night, heart beating, eyes wide, and all you can remember is the face of someone you lost? Sometimes the reason you keep dreaming of someone who died is because there's unfinished business lingering in your soul. See, death may bring finality to the body, but it doesn't always bring closure to the heart. And many of us are walking around with open wounds that we've simply learned how to dress up. Smiles on the outside, pain on the inside. You went to the funeral, you wore the black, you said your goodbyes, but late at night, when all the noise dies down and you're left alone with your thoughts, their face shows up in your sleep. That's not random. That's not meaningless. That's your soul trying to finish what your circumstances didn't allow you to. Maybe there were words you never said, an apology you were too prideful to make, a hug you refused to give, or maybe, just maybe, it wasn't what you didn't say, it was what you never heard. You never heard, "I'm proud of you." You never heard, "I forgive you." You never heard, "I love you." And so that relationship went into the grave incomplete. And now that incompleteness keeps showing up in your dreams. You see, your mind is powerful, but it's your spirit that holds the weight of what's unresolved. And God has designed the spirit not to ignore what's broken, but to seek healing. Your spirit won't rest when there's something it still needs to release. And when the soul has been burdened with grief, bitterness, regret, or guilt, it will speak, even if it has to speak through a dream. That's why you can wake up from something that happened years ago and feel like it just happened yesterday. Because emotionally, spiritually, you are still there. You never left that moment. You never moved forward. You buried them, but you never buried the pain. And let's be real, some of us have been living in denial. We say things like, "I'm fine. It's all in the past. I've moved on." But your dreams are saying something different. Your dreams are telling the truth your mouth won't speak. Your dreams are showing you what your heart still hasn't surrendered. That's not meant to shame you, it's meant to heal you. Remember in Genesis 37 when Joseph dreamed dreams that confused everybody? He didn't even understand the meaning at first. But God was revealing something deeper. His dreams were not random. They were preparation, revelation. They were God pulling back the curtain on what was unfinished in the present and what was coming in the future. So don't dismiss your dreams. God may be using them to deal with things your waking mind keeps trying to ignore. Maybe the person who died hurt you deeply, and the wound never closed. They never asked for forgiveness. You never got the justice. You never got the apology, and now they're gone. So how do you forgive someone who's no longer alive? You do it by surrendering them to the one who is still alive. You bring that brokenness to Jesus, and you let him do what only he can: restore peace in your soul. You may not be able to have that final conversation with them, but you can have a conversation with God about them. And in doing so, release the bitterness that's still holding you captive. Or maybe the opposite is true. Maybe they were your protector, your strength, your support system, the one person who always believed in you, and now that they're gone, you're lost, you're scared, you don't feel safe anymore. So they keep showing up in your dreams as a comfort mechanism, because your soul is still searching for security. And in those moments, God may be gently reminding you, you trusted in them, but now it's time to trust in me. He's saying, what they were to you in the flesh, I can be to you in the spirit. He's saying, I will never leave you nor forsake you. That's why the dream isn't just about memory, it's about meaning. It's about dealing with what's unsettled in the depths of your being. Don't just wake up and shake it off. Don't just say, that was weird. Take it to prayer. Take it to the Word. Ask the Holy Spirit, what are you trying to show me through this? Because when you dream of someone who died, it may be your soul's way of saying, I still need to heal, I still need to let go, or even I still need to carry something forward that they left behind. And the good news is God is patient with you. He's not rushing you, but he is calling you out of denial, calling you into healing. And sometimes he uses even your sleep to awaken your spirit. Sometimes God uses your dreams as whispers into your spirit. See, we've gotten so used to looking for God in the loud thunder, lightning, signs, wonders, miracles, that we forget he's just as present in the quiet. We want the Red Sea to split before we believe he's working. But sometimes he comes like he did to Elijah, not in the fire, not in the earthquake, but in a still, small voice. And often that voice doesn't come through your ears, it comes through your spirit. It comes while you sleep. It comes in the silence of your mind. It comes in a dream. Now let's be clear, God is not the author of every dream. Some dreams are just your brain trying to organize clutter. Some are your anxieties talking back to you. And yes, some are just the leftover effects of eating too much pepperoni pizza at 11 o'clock at night. But then there are other dreams, the ones that stay with you, the ones that speak something deeper, the ones that leave you thinking about eternity when all you wanted was 8 hours of rest. Job 33 says it like this: for God does speak, now one way, now another, though no one perceives it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on people, as they slumber in their beds, you see, God is speaking even when you're not aware. God is always looking for a channel, and when your mind is finally at rest and your soul isn't distracted by scrolling and swiping and stressing and talking, he just might choose to speak to you through a dream. So when someone you loved, someone who's passed on, keeps appearing in your dreams, it could be that the Spirit of God is using that image, that memory, that moment to say something to you. It may not be about them at all. It might be about what you're running from, what you're called to, or what you're holding on to. God will often use the familiar to introduce the divine. He'll use something you recognize to point you to something you haven't realized yet. Maybe you're dreaming of that grandmother who prayed for you because God's trying to remind you of your spiritual inheritance. Maybe you're dreaming of a father who wasn't there because God wants to show you that he is the father who never left. Maybe you keep seeing a friend you lost tragically because God's trying to pull out the compassion in you to reach others who are hurting like you did. God doesn't always use angels with swords of fire to get your attention. Sometimes he uses your own memories. Sometimes he'll take what's familiar and load it with new meaning. He'll take your grief and turn it into guidance. He'll take your pain and transform it into purpose. That's how God works. He's a redeemer. And he doesn't just redeem your circumstances, he redeems your dreams too. You ever wonder why you dream about things you didn't even consciously think about that day? That's because your spirit is always awake, even when your body isn't. Your spirit is tuned into frequencies your flesh can't hear. Your spirit is listening to what heaven is broadcasting, and sometimes what your spirit picks up in the nighttime is more real than what your eyes see in the day. Because we walk by faith, not by sight. And God doesn't just work through sermons and scriptures. He works through signs, symbols, and sometimes sleep. So don't be so quick to dismiss what's happening in your dreams. God may be showing you a warning. He may be offering you peace. He may be revealing something you need to prepare for. When Joseph dreamed in the Old Testament, he didn't just see images, he received instructions. Pharaoh had a dream that shifted Egypt. Daniel interpreted dreams that shifted kingdoms. The Bible is full of moments where God said, you won't listen in the daytime. So let me talk to you at night. If someone you love shows up again and again in your sleep, Maybe it's time to stop brushing it off. Maybe God is stirring your spirit to remember a truth they taught you or a lesson you're forgetting. Maybe it's not just about the person, it's about what they represent. Maybe it's not about the loss, it's about the legacy. And listen, you don't need to get mystical. You don't need to go chasing dream interpreters and symbols and superstitions. You just need to go to God and say, Lord, what are you showing me? Because the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. And he promised to guide you into all truth. So maybe that dream wasn't just a dream. Maybe it was a whisper, a soft knock on the door of your soul. Don't ignore it. Invite the Spirit in. There are times when God in his mercy uses a dream not to instruct, not to correct, but simply to comfort. Sometimes you dream of that person who passed away not because you're lost in the past, but because God knows your heart is still grieving, and in his divine compassion, he allows you to feel close to them again, not so you cling to the dead, but so you'll know he sees your pain. Sometimes that dream is heaven's way of saying, I haven't forgotten how much you're hurting. You see, we live in a world that doesn't know how to sit with grief. They give you 3 days off work and expect you to be fine by the weekend. They send flowers, but after the funeral, they disappear. And so you learn how to function while broken. You learn how to laugh with a limp in your soul. You become a master at hiding the ache behind your eyes. But God never forgets. God doesn't move on from your pain just because time has passed. He is not the God of get over it. He is the God who draws near to the brokenhearted. Psalm 56:8 says, you keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. That means not one tear has gone unnoticed. Not one sob has been ignored. Not one lonely night was missed by your Father in heaven. So when that loved one shows up in your dream, sometimes it's not just your memory talking. It's your Father's way of saying, I see you. I know this still hurts. Let me bring a little comfort to your spirit. And let's be honest. Some nights are harder than others. Some dates come around, and even if the calendar has changed, your emotions haven't. Anniversaries, birthdays, the day they passed, it all comes back. And right when you think you've moved on, the pain grabs your chest like it happened yesterday. And on those nights in the quiet and the darkness, God might allow a moment in a dream where you hear their voice again, you see their smile, you feel their embrace. You wake up with tears, yes, but also with a strange sense of peace. Because for just a moment, heaven felt a little closer. God knows how fragile the human heart can be. He doesn't just command us to be strong, he supplies the strength. He knows there are days when the loss is too heavy to carry, so he carries us. Isaiah 40:11 says, he gently leads those that have young. If he leads gently, that means he's patient, he's kind. He knows your grief doesn't follow a schedule, so he walks with you at your pace. And sometimes that walk includes a dream in the night to soothe your spirit in ways no words ever could. There's something deeply spiritual about how God uses rest. You remember when Elijah was ready to die? He had given up on everything. But instead of preaching to Elijah, God let him sleep. And when Elijah woke up, there was food waiting. God ministered to him through rest and nourishment. Because God understands that sometimes the most holy thing he can give you isn't a sermon, it's a moment of peace. Sometimes what you need isn't a miracle, it's just one quiet night where your soul can breathe. So maybe that dream is God feeding you something for your inner man. Maybe it's his way of nourishing your soul while your body sleeps. You didn't ask for it. You didn't expect it, but he gave it to you anyway, because that's what love does. Love shows up when no one else can. Love whispers, I'm still here, even when everyone else is gone. And God is love. It's okay to be comforted by that dream. It's okay to thank God for that moment. You don't have to overthink it, analyze it, or try to explain it. Just receive it. Receive the comfort. Receive the peace. Receive the reminder that you are not alone. That the same God who watched over your loved one now watches over you. That the same God who held them in their final breath holds you in your tears. You may feel alone, but you are not abandoned. You may feel empty, but heaven is still full of love. And every now and then, God lets a little of that love break through the veil, not to confuse you, but to calm you, not to stir you up, but to settle you down. Because even in your dreams, he is still the God of all comfort. Sometimes when you dream of someone who has passed away, it's not just about comfort or memory, it's about calling. It's about God using that person's life and even their absence to awaken something dormant inside of you. You see, God is a master at using everything, even your sorrow, for his divine purpose. There are times when the image of someone in your dream becomes the spark to push you forward, not pull you back. You wake up, not just with emotion, but with a sense of conviction, with a stirring, with a new awareness that there's more God is requiring from you. God will use people, both living and gone, to plant seeds in your spirit. And sometimes he waits until the stillness of sleep to water those seeds. That person who shows up in your dreams, they may be tied to a part of your destiny, not because they are your source, but because God used them to shape you. They may have taught you how to pray, how to fight, how to endure, how to believe. They may have been the one who first opened your eyes to faith, to purpose, to truth. And just because they're not physically present doesn't mean God has stopped using their impact to guide your journey. There are moments when God will let their voice echo in your dreams, not because he wants you to live in the past, but because he wants to remind you of the baton they passed. Paul said in 2 Timothy 4:7, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Some of the people you dream about, they fought their race. They kept the faith. And now you've been handed the baton. But God knows sometimes you forget. You get distracted by life, caught up in the daily grind, consumed with worry and stress and busyness. So what does he do? He lets that person show up in your sleep. Not as a ghost, not as a superstition, but as a spiritual reminder. There's a purpose in you that hasn't been completed yet. Remember how God used Moses, but when Moses died, Joshua had to step up. And in Joshua 1, God tells him, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you and all these people get ready. In other words, the season has shifted. The torch has been passed. And now it's your turn to walk in what God prepared through those who came before you. You see, dreams can sometimes be divine nudges. They can be God's way of saying, I need you to remember who you are. I need you to remember what you've been called to do. Some of the people you dream of, they believed in you before you believed in yourself. They saw greatness in you when you only saw failure. And now, years later, their presence in your dream is a holy echo, a spiritual push saying, don't stop now, keep going. I may be gone, but what I put in you is still alive. Even Elijah, when he passed his mantle to Elisha, set in motion a legacy that would live beyond him. That's the power of legacy. It doesn't die with the person, it lives on in the assignment. So don't ignore it when God brings them back to your remembrance. That may be your wake-up call to start that ministry, to forgive that person, to love deeper, to pray harder, to step fully into what you've been postponing. You've been putting off your purpose because you've been waiting for the perfect moment. But God may be saying the time is now. You've got something in your hands, something planted in you by those who came before, and their dream appearance may be heaven's way of saying, don't let what I started in you die with me. It's time to carry it forward. It's time to honor their memory, not just with words, but with action, with obedience, with purpose. So if you've been dreaming of that mother, that father, that friend, that mentor, ask yourself, what did they leave in me? What did they model for me? What legacy am I called to carry? Because your dream may not be just about reconnection. It may be about activation. Don't just remember them, rise because of them. Don't just weep. Walk forward in what they helped prepare you for. You are here for a reason, and God will use whatever he needs, including a dream, to remind you of what he put in you. The call hasn't been canceled. The mission hasn't expired. And the God who gave you that connection still has plans to use it for his glory.